Welcome everyone to this teaching session about a therapy demonstration. This is an animated video that was prepared in retrospect after the session. Here I am using some diagrammatic sketches to illustrate the ego states of the client, my interventions, and my social and psychological understanding of the client. Hope you will benefit from this teaching and translate some of this learning into your own practice sessions with your clients. These are the learning objectives that I want for you in this session. This is about a client who presented with jitteriness and anxiety. You will be able to understand how I dealt with that kind of a client and take some lessons from it. You will also be able to explain the theoretical background of why I have interpreted or made a diagnosis and made the interventions. So we can begin with recapitulating the basics of ego state. Because we were all born as babies, we all have a child in us, or that is called the child ego state. But the child grows up into an adult. Simultaneously, the child is incorporating some things from the parental figures around who brought him up or helped him grow up. So together, we have developed three parts in our personality called the child ego state, the adult ego state, and the parent ego state. This is the essential content of the ego state model or the PAC model that transactional analysis teaches. So this whole therapy process is based on these understandings, and these concepts are being used for diagnosis as well as interventions. As I said in the beginning, this client is presenting with jitteriness and anxiety. His anxiety on exploration, I find that it is about something bad will happen to his family, his mother, and like etc. So on deeper questioning, he is fearing that his mother will die. And to add another layer, he also has anxiety that he will be harmed. So that is the clinical situation, how it is happening. So in this patient or in this client, this is my ego state diagnosis. His social self is anxious and jittery and worried. And I'm showing a ego state diagram next to the anxious phase of the client, which is the standard understanding of an ego state diagram. And you can see the frame of reference where all the ego states are held together. What you see next is a personal self which I am diagnosing based on the theory of how ego states work. So as you can see here, the adult is practically crushed between the parent and child ego state of the client, and the child is almost like having caught a fire, very worried, anxious, jittery, and doesn't know what to do, that kind of state. And the parent is constantly cursing him. That is in a situation where he's not using his adult at all. So you can see the frame of reference is also very small, holding these two aspects together without allowing the adult to be released and function. So this is the state in which I observe the client. So this work was done online, but with video, and I could see the client on the video recording. Not recording, on the videos. And you can see the picture of the child that I see in my mind as I talk to this client. So, how did I make this diagnosis? Classically, the diagnosis is made at 4 levels. So, first is the behavioral level. So, his body language, his jitteriness, his anxious childlike face, his tense facial muscles. And at the social level, I felt very nurturing to him. I felt like a mother. I wanted to care for him, this anxious child. So when I became aware of that desire to care for him like a nurturing mother, I realized he is an anxious, adapted child seeking help from the mother. That is how I diagnosed his ego state. So after making this diagnosis, I asked him in the process of therapy certain questions. So he corroborated that I have felt like this when my mother becomes angry with me. So that was historical diagnosis. And when he said that his feeling is happening to him when he's doing a mischief and when his mother is angry, I was curious to ask him what is the mischief he has done now which makes him go back to that stage like a child who did a mischief. It was very interesting. Then he said he's married against his mother's wishes. He's also married a woman not belonging to his community, which is against the teaching and wishes of the community to which he belongs as well. So his real parent, mother, and also his cultural parent, that is the community, is angry with him for he has done something against them. So he is going back to the childhood experience where when he has done like that, he gets scolded, he gets beaten up, and now that makes him very anxious. Now let's look at how the treatment planning and interventions went on that day. So I identified his needs and took some immediate action. So in my thinking, the immediate need for him was to feel good inside. He was like a burning bush inside. So my awareness of body and its physiology told me maybe some physical exercise will make him feel good. So when he was talking to me, he was sitting in a closed room and he was sitting on his bed and talking to me with a computer in front of him. So I asked him whether he can get up and do some exercise. Initially he said no, but then I used a little bit of my powerful parent and invited him to get up from the bed, and on my end demonstrated to him some small physical movements but very vigorous, and invited him to do it with me, little kind of forcing him to do that. So he was like in a very dire state where he needed help, and he trusted me like a physician. So he complied to my request. He got up and did that. So as he did this physical warming up exercise movements for less than a minute, I think, or maybe 1 minute, I could see his body was relaxing and he was looking better in the video. So I concluded that day with him, inviting him to reflect on what's happening to him. That 1 hour session, what did it do for him? So he gave some reflections. Here we'll go and see what are the reflections he gave. He said he feels better. He feels relaxed. He said he can feel his body now. Whereas earlier he was like feeling very hot and burning inside. Now he said he feels cooler. That I thought was very interesting, because that was my observation also. Then he said he feels less scared now. So I realized his adult is peeping up, or there is some kind of relaxation between the compression of the parent on the child. So the adult is peeping up. That was my thinking at that time. And he went on to say that he called me at a night. He went on to tell me at this point that I think I can sleep now. So he had actually called me saying, I'm so anxious I can't go asleep. So now he said he can sleep. So I thought it's a big step. He's feeling relaxed. He's feeling comfortable to go to bed. And he told me that his wife, who is on night duty, I'll call her and tell her that I am feeling better and I'm going to bed. And he also added that I'll tell her I love her. So this I thought was big improvement in that 1 hour's work. So I told him we need to meet tomorrow for the continuation of the work, because this first meeting was in the night, and the next day I thought is the most appropriate for little more conscious, focused work with him. So this is an illustration and animated video of how it would have happened in his ego state. So this is the process and the practices that I am demonstrating here. So this is the same picture that I showed you in the diagnosis. This is the first day situation, how he contacted me. When the physical exercise happened, see what happens. He started moving. And when he started moving, what happened? The adult became little more released. And you can see I've illustrated that the color of the child has come down from deep red to light red, where he felt less hot or less burning inside. So the visual impression was like this picture that I'm showing here. You can see somebody is yawning, relaxing, feeling a little better. So this is what happened on the first day. And then what happened on the next day? The second day, I invited him to a 3-chair exercise, slowly teaching him what it means to have a parent, adult, and child, and imagine that these 3 aspects are in you. So I invited him to find chairs that suits these 3 states of mind, and helped him move around on those chairs and become aware of his own 3 parts. Of course, I contracted with him whether he would like to do something like that. He said yes, very enthusiastically. So I did that with him. And you can see the ego states were segregated. That's what I'm demonstrating in this picture. And when the ego states were segregated, I invited him for a conversation between his adult and his child. So you can see the to and fro arrows there. So the questions were like, in reality, is my mother going to beat me up? No. In reality, is my community going to beat me up? No. So the child felt reassured when his own adult gave him such strong supportive answers. At the end of the session, I put back all the ego states into his own frame of reference, and that's what you see in the next picture. So what happened in this process? It's an animated video to demonstrate what actually happened. The child became little more better and relaxed, and he felt he's back in his frame of reference and safe, not like opened up and in parts. And this was a self practice I asked him to do. I asked him to have a conversation with his natural child or find out what he really wants in life. And this conversation started going between the adult and the child part in him. The parent's power literally came down. So the parent voices was there, but it was not overpowering after this process. So the so what happened on the second days? Ego states were segregated, adult was accessible, child was less stressed, and conversation between the different child parts started happening. And he concluded with his reflections of that second hour like this. He understands that his mother is angry, but scare is within me. That was a big shift in his understanding. He realized she cannot harm him. That was his child fear. His mother is far away and he is far away, and she cannot harm him as a child, like she has done when he was a child, where literally she beated him up. Then he reported that my scare that my mother may be killed is my projecting my fear about my being killed onto my mother. It was not about really her death that I am worried about. It was about my death that I am worried about. And now I am aware in my adult that because our marriage is intercommunal, there can be a communal problem. So I have taken all the required steps to defend against that. So I asked him what it was, and so he said, I have taken precaution by getting her family to accept the marriage and also done the legal processes correctly, and has made sure that they both have a place to live away from their maternal homes. They both have income. They are both able to live by themselves, not dependent on the community or the mothers. So these were all good adult responses that he gave in his reflections. So we parted for another session after a few days. So when he came afterwards, what happened? I could see that the natural child and the adapted child were visibly different and having communication with each other. That burning hotness in the adapted child has come down, and the natural child is playfully side by his side. The way he was communicating demonstrated that. He was joking, he was more relaxed, he was more pleasant when he was talking to me. And he also kind of realized that the mother has also parent, adult, and child parts as a person, and all that is in his mind, that the mother is not physically close by, and that gave him a kind of understanding that his worry that the mother will harm him is actually absolutely baseless. So this was the state when I see him afterwards. So the work we did on the third day is like this. So again, the parent ego state was segregated. The adult was more accessible. The natural child was very vibrant and energy was coming. So I made all these interventions, inviting him to a 2-chair exercise this time, having a conversation between his parent ego state and his child ego state to have more clarity on what was actually going on between the parent and the child. And all this time his adult was active and already behind in the background, watching what is going on between the child and the parent. And so he kind of felt safe to have a conversation with the parent ego state. his adult was visibly supporting him. And I invited his adult to thank his parent for whatever she has been doing for him, so that his anger towards her for her current anger to him was kind of muffled a little bit. So when he thanked her, his anger came down a little bit, because he thanking her for what she really is as a mother. So bringing down the importance of the mother's current anger. So all this was done in the chair exercise, not directly with the mother. So this was kind of a mental practice which made him realize that all that he is experiencing as the mother now is in his mental image of the parent ego state, not actually. It was not in reality. So this strengthened him quite a bit. So we closed with reflections, deciding to follow up after some more time. So these were the summary of the reflections he gave after the third session. I'll call my mother. I will wait for her to speak rather than me start the conversation, because I am aware she may speak angrily. And when she's angry, I'll just let her be and express all her anger. After she finishes, I'll tell her, I understand your pain, but I love you. Then he said, I'll call her many times like this before I visit her. And he also reassured me that I will visit her only when I sense her anger has come down. And even when I visit, I would know that she still may have residual anger, and so I will do only short time visits and keep my conversations to a minimum. So what happened on the third and fourth days, we'll see here. This is using the animation of the ego states. So the three ego states were separated. He was aware of the PAC inside the parent ego state. He became aware of the child in his mother. That was something really beautiful that happened. And so he had all these conversations going on. His adopted child and natural child practiced some conversations with the child of the mother. That I thought was very wonderful when I saw it happen. And then he started having a conversation from his adult to the parent of his mother. And slowly the parent kind of retreated to the back. And he came back together in shape, put all his ego states together, and felt more in control of himself, or kind of a mastery over himself. And on the fourth day, for him, the parent ego state had practically become weak, and his adult was quite strong. And I could see that the child and the adult became company with each other. So I made all these invitations to the adult to reflect on what is going on and make some sense of whatever happened and why he went through this experience. I asked some questions to the adult: when he want to actually meet his mother, and give him some tips also, some reality ideas that I have. I asked him whether he wants my tip, so he said yes, and I gave him some tips from my experience and gave him the opportunity to choose what he really wants to do. And again we concluded with reflections on that day. And let's see what his reflections were. So this is animation of what happened and what I told him to continue to do for social control. The ego states segregating, having internal conversations by himself with the different ego states, and always being aware that all these three parts are inside him. It's not with something outside that he is communicating. So he learned to do all these conversations internally. And also, very important, I told him that he needs to continue his physical exercise, which was energizing him. So he started walking, running, some other small exercises. Then these are the tips that I gave him about facing the real parent in reality. That he should be financially independent before he visits her, and that he must wait till he is aware that his adult state or adult ego state is strong enough to withstand the parent lashes from his own mother. When he actually visits, her parent will be powerfully coming out, beating, scolding him and things like that. So I wanted his adult to him to feel confident that his adult is strong enough to take that, and also that his adult should be strong enough to handle his child when that parent lashings will come from the mother. He need to do it only if absolutely necessary. That was another suggestion I made. There's no urgency to go and meet his mother because his mother is doing well. She's not sick or dying or anything at that point. So there is no urgency to go and visit her. So he can wait for some time till her anger has mellowed down a bit and his adult has grown a little bit stronger. So do it only after he feels comfortable and strong, not in a hurry. That was my advice. And at the same time, to keep the contacts more structured and to a minimum rather than be like earlier. In the meantime, I was inviting him to continue his dialogue within himself, practice his awareness of adult and the awareness of his mother being in his head, so that he feels strong, and at the same time use this time to strengthen the relationship with his wife rather than being anxious about what the mother will say or what the mother will do. So the question here is how long therapy has to continue. So these are my theoretical reflections and thoughts on it. The client wants to feel he has had enough. So till the client wants. Or in other words, till the contract is achieved. So each day we were having separate contracts. His original contract with for his well-being, for him to feel less scared and confident to carry on with his work and be able to sleep. That was achieved actually through all these days. So what do you do knowing that he has deeper issues? What the therapist can do at that point is make sure that the client has achieved social control. So this I was not very sure, but I could see that it is happening. So I told him to come for a few more visits and then negotiate whether he wants to continue. So when a therapist thinks the client has completed stage 1 of therapy, the therapist can negotiate with the client, request him to practice his social control and come for therapy when he thinks he needs more deeper work. Then therapy would be the real regression work or the deconfusion of the child. And when therapist thinks the client has achieved script cure, crystallize the cure and wind up therapy, or offer availability if the client needs any further help. So on the 5th day, what happened? The client reports with 60 to 67% improvement. He complains that he is having anxiety in the department or in his work. So that is actually intuitively connecting to the earlier anxiety. So he said he wants to learn more. And he reported that he was not practicing all that I told him to practice. So he does not consider all those physical exercise and all important. And he also confessed to me that all the therapeutic suggestions I gave, he perceives as less powerful than allopathic medicines. So that was interesting to me, especially being a physician myself. So I explained to him how it is powerful and equally or more powerful than allopathic medicines. I explained to him that allopathic medicines work as chemicals inside his system, whereas when he practices the instructions he received on therapy and conscious change of his thinking, he is creating similar chemicals in his own brain rather than supplying it from outside, and that process will give him equally powerful results. Only thing, it will take a little more time than medicine supplied from outside. So consistency in practice is very important. I explained these things to him and planned with him, decide for how long you want to do this and to come when he needs support. Because I sensed difficulty in him or for committing for more sessions. He looked like he's better now. Why should I come for more? That was an unsaid communication I heard from him. So I offered him this and left him to make a decision for himself. On the 5th day, this is the ego state animated diagram that I saw. He was not doing the physical exercise. His conversations were going on. There was the natural child and adapted child being more active and all that. Client has gained sensitivity to symptoms. That's why he said he is becoming anxious in office. Some level of social control has happened and he's kind of able to manage it a little bit. So for achieving symptom control, he has to have more sessions and sensitivity to the appearance of symptoms and the awareness of symptoms and confidence to manage them, which I think he didn't achieve by the 5th day. It was almost more than a month by the 5th day. So after about 6 months only, the client returned for a follow-up. So when he came, he had some physical illness that needed surgery and he had become a little anxious, and that's why he reconnected with me. So I reassured him and suggested to undergo the surgery as recommended by the doctor and come back when he is ready for another session. He said yes, but he also said that he has some money constraints and now his wife is kind of not very happy about his taking therapy. So my response to him was, it's expected to happen. So practice building a good relationship with her and come when he is ready and able to make his own decision that he needs to be more free and grow further. So I am inviting here to reflect on what may be the reason why I said this kind of a response is expected from his wife. What may be the reason why he's holding back from doing second stage or regression therapy and just being happy with whatever progress he made in his own awareness of his fear and things like that. So I invite him to reflect on it, and looking forward to hearing your comments on that. Little more theory. For achieving the transference level of cure, the child needs to have, the client needs to have sessions till he gains sensitivity to the transference to the therapist. And awareness of the transference has to happen. Then symptoms of the transference will happen in the therapy. The the therapist will have to be aware of the counter transference happening and be capable of explaining or interpreting the process to him, and wait for the client to understand and accept these dynamics. Invite him for script cure. For that, he needs to learn little more deeply about the ego states and prepare him for a regression to happen. And this is called education of the client. And when that happens at the right time, the client will be ready for regression. And when the client is ready for regression, do a regression session, and that will be called the deconfusion according to Byrne. That is deconfusion of the child according to TA therapy. So thank you for listening to me. I hope you have learned something about how actually a therapy happens, and also be able to look at it with the segregation and reconstitution of ego states, and how the different parts of the ego state manifest and influence each other and things like that. I invite you to go back and listen to this video if you want more clarity on it. If you can get back to me on more details of what you want about the process, we can have a one-to-one session. Thank you.